Yeah, good evening, everybody. Thank you for coming to our public meeting to discuss the possibility of relocating the Aylmer branch of the Elgin County Library to these very walls of East Elgin Community Complex. My name is Brian Michelli. I'm the Director of Community and Cultural Services for the county. And our department encompasses administration of the library system. You'll hear more about our system and the branches that we have in that system as we go through a presentation tonight. Tonight I'm joined by some of our staff, Natalie Marlowe, our Manager of Library Services, and our Aylmer Supervisor, Billy Van Zyl, who are also going to be joining me up tonight for portions of the presentation. And I also want to acknowledge Janine Steele, who is our Digital Services Librarian, and will be assisting with surveys that can be conducted tonight if you want to fill one out before you leave. Again, we'll get into that tonight. At this time, I'd like to call on Elgin County Warden Grant Jones to bring some greetings.
Well, thank you, Brian. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for all coming out tonight. It's great to see so many community members here to engage and in an important conversation about the future of the Aylmer branch of the Elgin County Library System. The Aylmer branch is one of 10 branches made up of the Elgin County Library System, a system that we are incredibly proud of. Across Elgin County, our libraries serve as a welcoming, inclusive hub for learning, exploration, community connection, and they're supported by staff who are knowledgeable, personable, and deeply passionate about what they do. Programs we offer are through progressive and engaging of all people in all ages. Here in Aylmer, we have something special. This branch is the highest number of users in the Elgin County branch system, and it plays a vital role in the life of this community. And yet, for many years now, it has operated in a space that simply does not meet the full potential of what we can offer. Whether it's in terms of housing or growing collections or offering the kinds of programming our staff are eager to provide. Tonight, we are excited to take the first important step forward. We're here to explore the possibility of relocating the Aylmer branch to the East Elgin Community Complex. Move that could be expanding what our library is able to offer and create new opportunities for the collection, collaboration, access, and innovation. I encourage you to listen closely to our presentation from our staff this evening. They'll share insights, possibilities, and ideas that are grounded in both experience and vision. I also invite you to ask for thoughtful questions and to share your feedback. As tonight, our online engage process is live. We've launched a survey to gather your input, and I strongly encourage each of you to participate in that process. Your feedback will help guide Elgin County Council as we move forward. Thank you again for being here and for your continued support of the library system. We look forward to a meaningful conversation and are excited for the future of the Aylmer branch. Thank you so much. And I'd like to recognize a few of my county councilors here, Mark Whitner, Dominique Jaguar, Jack Cookett, and I recognize the Aylmer people. I know Pete Barber, and I don't know a lot of the other councilors on Aylmer. So if there's any other councilors from Aylmer, please put your hand up. Anyway, thank you so much.
Oh, yeah, thank you, Mr. Warden. Go to the next slide. Oh, didn't look. So just a quick overview of what we're going to cover tonight. We'll spend about 45 minutes going through a presentation and as well as outlining the consultation process, and then there will be an opportunity for a question and answer section. And I'll indicate how that will proceed when we get to the end of our presentation. Okay, so County Council has adopted this mission, vision, and values to guide the county through this term. I want to highlight in particular the vision of advancing the prosperity of our county, ensuring responsible development while respecting our rural heritage. Our library system is a big part of that as we respond to the significant growth that is occurring in our county in ways that the library system will also need to grow in response to that, which is really a new consideration for us. I mean, we spent a number of years where our population wasn't growing. Status quo was prevailing, our 10 branches for serving their communities. But now we're in a different era, and we have to consider as well future growth and how we're going to serve that growth. But at the same time, offering services to our residents that have lived here for many years. And I think county councils recognize that in the vision and who value our rural and small urban lifestyle. So there is a balance that does need to be played here. We have put together this conceptual vision for our library branches, including Aylmer, as we work to further refine the county's mission, vision, and values for specific application for the library. So a customer-friendly and welcoming public library that serves all ages with space, resources, hours, technology, and staffing to provide access to a vast and diverse collection in all formats, a wide array of public programs and areas for exploration, creation, relaxation, private study, and community connections. You can see how critical space needs are to meeting this vision, as we cannot have a diverse collection, levels of technology, types of programs, and community services without sufficient space. Here's an overview of our system and the 10 branches we operate, including Aylmer. I hope you all have active county library cards. I'm going to get mine out somewhere in here. It's a shattered mess, and you can see it's well buried. But so on my first day when I started with the county, I was given a library card, and I've used this card ever since. It's disintegrated, but I can assure you it's well used. I hope you all have active library cards. We won't answer that if you want to ask a question, but it'd be really helpful if you did have one. Aylmer is the largest branch in the system in terms of usage and population served, but is still a branch. It benefits from being linked to the other 9 branches as collections circulate between them, and we have many digital resources that are administered centrally and are shared amongst all the branches. We also cross-pollinate on matters such as program ideas. So this is the perspective we really want to bring to this. While the Aylmer Library may be the only library you use, and in that regard is seen as Aylmer's library, it is still one part of the system, and each branch plays a strategic role in serving all county residents, regardless of where they live. We do not think of the Aylmer Library as serving residents of the town only. This point is further demonstrated by this graphic showing what we have defined as the primary catchment area for each branch, which for Aylmer is an area comprised of residents from both the township of Malahide and the town of Aylmer, ranging from College Line in the north to Port Bruce in the south, and with Aylmer in the middle. Catchment areas are determined by analyzing usage data and proximity to other branches. And I'm certainly willing to answer any more questions you might have about how we determine those catchment areas as part of our question and answer section. We have conducted population scans of the catchment areas served by Aylmer Library using data generated by the county's geographic information systems operated by our engineering department. This particular profile identifies the catchment area of approximately 15,000 residents, but another analysis revealed it is closer to 16,000 residents and growing rapidly. This data revealed that there is a significant population that is under 19, which is greater than a population that is over 65. We will always provide services for residents of all ages, but the programming needs of families with young children is an important consideration in addressing our space needs. We certainly see on a daily basis the challenges that young families have in participating in programs and even obtaining parking at the old town hall location. We also have to be future ready with adaptive space to handle the growth that we know is going to take place, where we will see several thousand new residents come to this area and join that catchment area. These are all factors that County Council needs to contemplate as we consider the next renewal of the lease. But this time I'm going to call on Natalie Barlow.
Thank you, Brian. Good evening, everyone. So my name is Natalie Barlow, and I serve as the manager of library services for Elgin County Library. So tonight, I'll be sharing with you some statistical information about the library service that Aylmer Library currently provides, and also how residents of Aylmer and Malahide and throughout the county have used these library services over the past 2 years. So this information is presented for Aylmer Library uniquely. Plus, as Brian mentioned, as a branch of the Elgin County Library System as a whole, and within the context of all those 10 other branches. All 10 branches. It is also presented across 4 data categories, as you'll see as we move through the slide: library users, library attendance, library programs, and collections. These statistics will illustrate 2 usage trends. Number 1, increases in Aylmer branch usage consistently across library service areas. And 2, increases in Aylmer branch usage relative to all 9 other Elgin County Library branches. So this first category shows the growing number of Aylmer branch library cardholders and talks about the size and composition of this membership group. As you can see here, in the first quarter of 2025, the 4,143 Aylmer Library cardholders make up 34% of the Elgin County Library cardholders, which is 1/3 of the membership of Elgin County Library. So for some context, Aylmer branch cardholders are defined as Elgin County Library members who have selected Aylmer as a home library or the branch that they use the most. Home library selection does not mean that library users are limited to using that particular branch. In fact, all Elgin County Library cardholders can use all branches. So for example, Springfield and Stratfordville cardholders use the Aylmer branch regularly, given their close geographical proximity. So please note that the number of Aylmer branch cardholders is impacted and inflated by these additional cardholders coming from other branches, plus additional users that do not have a library card. The library users are not required to have a library card, and these particular numbers are not captured in these statistics. So in the graph at the bottom of this slide, you see all of the new members for Elgin County Library. Of all of these members, Aylmer makes up 30% of new members each year. New members are new card holders who created their library membership within the recent and current year. The infographic to the right illustrates both the new members in 2024 and the total members for Aylmer. So total members being new members plus members already actively using library services. It also presents the percentage of adult and juvenile cardholders at the bottom there that make up the total Aylmer members. So this particular composition, adult 73% and juvenile 22%, reflects a similar makeup to that of the catchment area population that was presented in the previous slide. So ultimately, Aylmer Library not only has the largest membership within Elgin County Library, but also consistently attracts approximately 675 new members to Aylmer and Elgin County Library each year. This category, branch attendance, outlines the growing number of visitors per year for Aylmer branch and illustrates an increase in people going to the Aylmer Library, as well as an increase in the branch attendance relative to all Elgin County Library branches. For context, branch visits here refer to in-person visits only and not to virtual traffic for the digital library. So in 2024, Aylmer branch saw a 9% increase in the number of branch visits over 2023, resulting in 53,781 people visiting the library. Also, over the past 2 years, Aylmer branch has seen consistent incremental growth at 27 and 28% in the percentage of branch attendance, making Aylmer the busiest and most well-used library branch within Elgin County Library. Ultimately, as the Aylmer branch traffic increases, an increased level of library service and space is needed to support the growth in attendance. So this next category, branch programs, shows the number of attendees at Aylmer Library programs and illustrates an increase in people attending library programs at Aylmer, as well as an increase in the program attendance relative to all Elgin County library branches. For context, programs here refers to any group activity offered to the public that library staff coordinate or deliver. In 2024, Aylmer Library saw a 25% increase in the number of people attending programs over 2023, resulting in 6,280 program attendees. However, over the past 2 years, although Aylmer Branch has seen consistent growth at 13 and 14% here, in the percentage of program attendees, this figure is not consistent with, and it's less than a growth in the 30% range that we've seen in previous slides. This means that Aylmer does not have the highest program attendance within Elgin County Library. And in fact, it is second to the program attendance at the Dutton branch, another Elgin County Library branch. This determines that with limited program space, the size, the format, and the content of program offerings available in the Aylmer Library for residents is also limited. Limited space also limits the development of new programs. Ultimately, as the Aylmer branch program attendance increases, an increased amount of library space is needed to support the growth in program attendance. An example of this is the dedicated program space in the Dutton Library. So this last category, branch collection, outlines the number of physical items borrowed per year at the Aylmer branch and shows an increase in the number of materials checked out at the Aylmer Library, as well as an increase in the branch circulation relative to all of the county library branches. So for context here, total checkouts means the total number of physical materials checked out at the library during the year. So please note that this statistic does not include the online digital library. Circulation here refers to the library service of lending materials for borrowing by library card holders. In 2024, Aylmer branch saw a 3% increase in the number of items borrowed over 2023, resulting in 73,773 items circulated, making Aylmer the highest circulating branch within Elgin County Library. Also, over the past 2 years, Aylmer branch has seen consistent growth at 35, 36, and 39% in the percentage of materials circulated compared to the Elgin County Library branches. So, however, while circulation at Aylmer Library is high and continues to climb, the number of library materials available on the shelves in the library does not increase, and this is as a result of limited space. This means that with a limited collection size, the content and quality of the collection available on the shelves for Aylmer Library users is also limited. Limited space also limits adding new materials to the collection and is often a determining factor when evaluating existing materials within the collection. Ultimately, as the Aylmer branch total checkouts increase, an increased level of library service and collection space is needed to support the growth in circulation. So with that, I would like to introduce and welcome Celine Bansale, Supervisor of the Aylmer Library, to talk about current facility challenges.
Good evening, my name is Celine Bansale, and I'm the Branch Supervisor at the Aylmer Library. Before we get into the details, I just want to be very clear about the perspective we bring into this discussion. When we talk about challenges facing the Aylmer Library, we're not looking for a quick band-aid solution. Or a fix for just one problem. All of these challenges are rooted in the same issue, the lack of space. Addressing just one of these problems.
Air circulation skills.
It's going down and you're not gonna move it, so it's-
Large amount.
Still not bad.
Addressing just one of these problems without considering the bigger picture would be, quite frankly, like rearranging the deck chairs on the Titanic. Collection. I want to start by talking about our collection because really it's the foundation, the heart of any library. You can take away the programs, the computers, but as long as you have a good collection, you still have a library. The Aylmer Library accounts for over 35% of the county's total circulation. But when it comes to new materials, we only receive about 21% of new collection items, which means you, our Aylmer Library patrons, aren't getting your fair share of new books and other materials. What that means is that you're constantly placing holds on books in other branches and waiting for them to be delivered to Aylmer. And on our end, it means we're dealing with bigger book deliveries, which is extra work for staff. A large percentage of our regular library patrons come from the low German-speaking community. It's a big part of what makes Aylmer unique, and our collection needs to reflect that. But with limited shelf space, it's tough to build the kind of collection this community deserves. What we do have gets borrowed a lot, which means those items wear out faster and have to be discarded or replaced constantly. On top of that, Aylmer is the only library in the county still using 6-foot-high shelving. If we switch to lower, more accessible shelving, like other branch libraries have, we'd lose even more shelf space. According to RICLO guidelines, we should have 24,000 and 50,000 items in the Aylmer Library. Right now, we're barely over the minimum at 28,000. And if we lose those top shelves, we will definitely fall below. So on the one hand, we just barely meet the minimum number of items we should have. And on the other hand, we have accessibility issues. If you can look at the photo there, we have 2 aisles in the library with posts right in the middle of it. And those 6-foot-high shelves we have are barriers to a lot of our patrons. We have patrons who are not able to access parts of our collection, and they have to rely on staff to assist them in finding the items they want to check out or even to browse the collection. Other library systems around us have expanded their collections beyond books, adding things like musical instruments, sport equipment, and other creative items that patrons can check out. We haven't been able to take that step. Elgin County Library has looked into it on numerous occasions, but one of the biggest reasons for delaying such an expansion has been that Aylmer doesn't have the space to store or display those kinds of materials. For programs, one of our biggest challenges when planning programs in the Aylmer Library is the lack of dedicated program space. Every time we run a program, staff have to move furniture around and pull supplies out of storage. It takes extra time to set up and clean up, which means less time for actually running programs and planning new ones. Since we don't have a separate program room, we have to use areas of the library that are meant for other activities. And believe you me, we have used about every square inch of that library for programs at one point or another. Most of the time, it's the children's area that gets used, which means kids can't freely browse or pick up books while the program is running. Space is limited, so we can't always fit everyone who wants to come. We have to run the same program multiple times just to make sure everybody gets a turn or limit the number of patrons we have attending. And because we are doing most of our programs in the children's area, We have to be careful about what kinds of conversations or topics we cover. For example, if we're hosting a book club or a memoir writing program, we have to keep discussions pretty PG-13 because there might be kids nearby. It limits what we can offer and how open people can be in those programs. Another example I can give you. We have 3 sewing machines for patrons to use or for us to use in programs. Any sewing program we have had in the past, be it learning how to sew, making library bags, or court classes, have been extremely popular. However, now you are adding sewing equipment such as pins, needles, rotary cutters, and an iron and extension cords in the kids area. Community. The library isn't just for people with library cards. It's a space for the whole community. It's a safe, welcoming space where people naturally come when they need somewhere to meet, work, or just relax. We get regular requests from local agencies, organizations, and businesses looking for meeting space, and we'd love to accommodate them. But the truth is, we just don't have a dedicated spot to offer. Any space we do have is public, often noisy, and unavailable. To illustrate how the lack of meeting space affects people, a few weeks ago, I noticed a gentleman at the back in the library surrounded by several large boxes and stacks of paperwork. It was a Thursday morning, and our family story time program was about to begin. I approached him and let him know he was welcome to use the library, but that he would soon be joined by about 25 kids, parents, and babies. He was surprised to learn that the library didn't have a private space available. He was obviously from out of town, especially since he had arranged meetings throughout the morning for people to come and pick up their documents. The only spot we could offer him was the reading area by the magazines and newspapers, located right at the library's entrance. As a result, he had to conduct all of his meetings that day in one of the busiest areas of the library. Other examples are social workers meeting with clients out on the front staircase to the theatre, and a tutor with Thames Valley District School Board working with their students every Friday morning in whatever little space is available that day. The lack of privacy is a huge issue too. Not long ago, we had a gentleman in the library who had just lost access to his home. He was working through a tough situation with his counselor on the phone, and it all happened out in the open at the public computers. He was visibly upset and emotional, and there just wasn't anywhere else for him to go. That kind of conversation preserves privacy, and right now we can't offer it. Another important thing to mention is our washroom situation. The library has only one public washroom. In addition to the fact that one is totally inadequate for the number of patrons we serve daily, the washroom doesn't meet accessibility standards, a problem for a public service space like ours. With only 40 parking spaces behind the library, approximately 15 of which are regularly used by tenants from the apartment building across the street, most of the remaining spots are taken up by town employees, library staff, and other downtown workers and shoppers. This leaves limited parking available for our patrons. We've received feedback from some visitors, particularly parents, bringing their children to the program, that they've spent so much time searching for a parking spot around the library that they eventually gave up and went home without attending. So, and I want to recognize that some of my staff members are here tonight. Our staff room is where things really get tight. It's only 9 by 12 feet, and somehow it must do everything for our team of 7. There in the photo you can see Ellen sitting there, and she's busy doing the mail delivery, the book delivery. It's where staff take their breaks, prep for programs, and handle the book deliveries twice a week. And when those mail deliveries come in, we're dealing with around 8 to 10 boxes of items that need to be unpacked, scanned, and sorted, all crammed into that little room. I think somewhere out there, there's a Fisher Price in my first kitchen toy that is missing a sink, and it's in the Aylmer Library sofa. The sink in there is so small, you can't even fit a regular dinner pot in. But it's the only sink we have for staff to wash dishes, mugs, and utensils. And it also has to handle all the program cleanup. So if you were rewashing paintbrushes or rinsing out craft supplies, it happens there too. When we hire new staff, we usually warn them they'll need to get used to not having much personal space at work. But we hope that they have storage at home. Because of this, with a shortage of storage space at the library, things like supplies for the court show, other programs, and even our Christmas decorations end up stashed in basements, garages, and attics of staff members. Today's modern community expects more from the public library than just books on shelves. The staff at the Aylmer Library, along with the Elgin County Library System, are ready and willing to deliver the kinds of services this community deserves. We just need the space to do so. And with that, I'll let you go.
Thank you. All right, we rely on guidelines as produced by the administrators of rural and urban public libraries of Ontario, the so-called RUPO guidelines. And I have here the 4th edition, published in 2023. I chaired the committee that resulted in these guidelines, so I do know them well. We did bring forward a branch-by-branch benchmarking analysis to County Council last year, which outlined each branch's performance relative to the guidelines, and you can see Aylmer's listed here. 2 areas where we fall dramatically short is the total amount of assignable space at the current location, which is about 30% of the minimum recommended for a large branch, which Aylmer is considered. And you can see user seating is also at 50% or less of the recommended guideline. Really, every guideline is impacted by the amount of space available to us. I'm happy to answer any questions about these guidelines and how they apply during our question and answer session. At the April 22nd meeting of Elgin County Council, we were able to get initial endorsement on space needs for the Aylmer Library, as well as clarify roles and responsibilities when it comes to the leasing framework for our branches, which we will also address this evening. We are confident that these space needs, based on our guidelines, will be formally endorsed at County Council's meeting next week, which means that any future proposals to expand the library will need to meet these space considerations. The components of which are broken down here, but our main consideration in terms of any future proposal is meeting the cumulative space needs of at least 10,000 square feet that then can be adapted as outlined here for the various service considerations that will go into it. Let's also not underestimate the importance of these additional considerations in any space proposal. You heard Darlene speak of the challenges we have, the Old Town Hall location, such as public washrooms and the lack of staff areas. A major one here is parking availability, which is a major challenge at the current location. The complex lot is being repaved, which will result in 256 standard parking spots and 14 accessible parking spots, plus gravel overflow areas, which results in parking for over 600 vehicles. Now, I know there are a lot of big events like hockey tournaments. I've been part of those hockey tournaments. I know how busy it can get. But that is a lot of parking, which will make it much easier for residents to come to the library. And we're currently conducting a customer analysis on how people get to the current location, but we know the vast majority drive and are having to navigate the limited parking available, which will not be an issue here. So here's an overview of what a library space at the complex should look like in this very area and the adjacent area around us. This concept was developed back in 2017 when Aylmer Town Council engaged in an architectural analysis when relocation to the complex was also being contemplated. We were actively involved in that process. as we have been in every proposal that has come our way to expand the branch. I want to stress that this may not be what a final design could look like this time around, but we want to at least show you that 10,000 square feet plus other considerations could easily be accommodated at the complex and how that could look and the various zones and program areas that can be included. We have these plans available for you to review. Again, this is a concept only. The one thing we have determined is that our identified space needs can be met for relocation to the complex. And here are some of the existing possibilities that will take place once we have the appropriate space regardless of location, including here at the complex. And I could spend several minutes talking about the importance of each one of these, but I'm going to highlight one that is really important to the types of community services public libraries are delivering today, and a real need that is not being met in the community right now, as you heard from Deline. And that is study areas and private meeting spaces. The needs of community agencies to have a space available is already great and will only grow. We are talking here about not only quiet study areas for students, tutors, and teachers, but also the ability for community service agencies like Ontario Works, Employment Services, Elgin, and many other agencies to have confidential meetings with their clients in a space that is available to all. And we have tonight with us Janet Gibbon, who's our supervisor of our Rodney Westmore and Dutton branches. And because we have the space available there, the agencies that have come to us that are now using those spaces, including employment services, they know that they have a sufficient space that is private, has really expanded, and it's meeting a need in the community. And that need is not being met here in Aylmer. And getting back to the vision we shared with you at the start, that type of collaboration with community agencies also aligns well with where County Council wants to take our library service. That level of engagement and privacy is simply not possible at the current location. And Aylmer also lacks public space, another thing on the next slide, for cultural programming, beyond what the museum here can deliver. Space for things like art exhibits and a proper space for our highly successful quilt show and fashion show that we've run in the past. And if you go see setup day when Deline's getting ready for the quilt show, it's very creative and as you said, every square inch of the library and the theater upstairs is used for that quilt show, and the regional draw of that event alone, it's the credit to Deline, she's a master seamstress, I gotta say. And the contributors to that event just speak to how much there is out there, how much cultural programming we could do if we had this sufficient space. It's not possible right now. There have been a lot of comments made about the complex being an inappropriate space for a library, citing challenges such as safety that have not been fully substantiated. And those need to be assessed against the serious operational and safety challenges we have at the current location. Yes, residents who live and shop downtown may not be able to walk to the library as we relocate to the complex. But for every challenge, there is a positive and an opportunity to engage new users. And we've already identified that the vast majority of current users ultimately drive to use the library, so driving to the complex should not be an issue. And there are neighborhoods in Aylmer that will become more walkable to the library at the complex. We've also heard about the impact of relocation will have on existing recreational programs that take place at the complex. And there are going to be trade-offs and decisions that the complex will need to make regarding what programs can be offered going forward. But let us not forget that the library also offers recreational and wellness programs that we will directly run. Things like yoga, cooking classes. Again, these are things that we've never been able to offer our residents from the current location, and will help build the community portion of community complex. And we also plan to be good tenants here at the complex. And we'll plan our events and programs so that they do not conflict with complex events. And while we will be looking at hours of operation as part of this process, I can safely say that Saturday evening and Sunday hours are not being contemplated at this time, which are times when the parking lot is often busier for hockey and other events. So we have laid out a vision of what library service at the complex could look like. But let's agree that the status quo is not an option. County Council wants to see action on meeting our state's needs, and that opportunity lies before us at the complex. But we also need action and not more endless debate and division to the current location or any other location be explored for expansion. County Council has made it clear that we will not be renewing our lease at the current location after December 31st, 2027, unless there is action on this matter. So the clock is ticking. This timeline can be met with the opportunity we have here at the complex. And it is a public building, which is also County Council's preference when it comes to future accommodation of the library. We would not be the first public library system to choose to locate to a larger community complex. 3 of our branches are actually in shared facilities, and if you've ever taken advantage of some of our programs at Springfield, you'll know how beneficial such a location can be, where we can scale our events relative to the available space around us, and even offer things like culinary programs. And there are multiple examples across the province of successful libraries and community complexes, and I have cited some of them here. And I've been a user in each of them, with the exception of Niagara Falls, as a place to read a newspaper through our press reader app. And if you don't have our press reader app, I highly recommend it. We can also help you with that tonight. Among the many great resources we have, I'm a huge fan of press reader. I can't believe what you can get on press reader for free. Or connect to Wi-Fi in between hockey games. And I can tell you it is great. And as soon as I tell other parents where I have been, they join me after the next game. There are also lots of busy parents who do not have time to use the library given all the activities they have going on. But what if they could get convenient access while their kids are at a practice? And trust me, I spent a long time watching practice. It only gets so exciting after so many years. I was just meeting with the London Public Library CEO, and he tells me that their 5 busiest branches are part of shared facilities. And if the complex was being built today, almost assuredly an expansion to the library would be part of those plans, as their CEO suggests. So why not consider doing this retroactively? Here's an overview of the county's leasing framework for our 10 library branches. The county does not own any of our buildings, but rather they are leased largely from our municipal partners, of which the town of Aylmer is one. It is really important to keep this in mind at the county level, because we want to be consistent with how all branches in the system are operated. Our leases are on 5-year terms and can be renewed for further 5-year terms if both parties agree. However, county council can decide to not renew a lease at the end of this term, and without requiring the building owner's approval, i.e. the municipality, or in this case, the town of Aylmer. The revenue possibilities to the complex are obviously a big part of why the complex board has approached us, but it is not the only reason. There's also capacity here to meet our space needs without requiring what will be an expensive building project compared to the expansion at the old town hall. And I will be happy to explain our leasing framework in greater detail during our question and answer session. Relocation to the complex does not mean that you will not visibly see the library in the community, even if it vacates the downtown. We are already working directly with Mennonite Community Services downtown, and we have plans to assign staff to be present in their offices to assist with new user registrations. We will be going into schools and daycares to provide programs like we have always done. And we are gaining momentum on our mobile library service, where we are taking a bookmobile approach to visiting residents and staff at Terrace Lodge with the goal of adding more capacity as we proceed, such as similar visits to aged care here in town. We also provide a delivery service to our patrons who cannot get to the library called Books to Go. For those services to be successful, we also need a proper space to prepare and pack our collections. So you will continue to see us active in the community regardless of where the branch is located. So I'm now going to turn our focus to the consultation process, which we're launching tonight, and that will extend for the next 3 weeks. An online survey is now available, and we want your feedback. Patrons can also fill a printable version of the survey at the library. Posters promoting the survey will be posted in our branches, community bulletin boards, and here at the complex. We will also have suggestion boxes at these locations. And after this 3-week consultation process, we will analyze the results and bring a report back to County Council and the Council for both Aylmer and Malahide, summarizing our findings. How long that summary will take will depend on the level of feedback we receive, but certainly in late June or early July, we'll have results. So tonight is just a step in the process, and we are still a ways off from any formal decisions being made on relocation to this facility. This decision has not been predetermined. And your feedback is critical to assisting county council in making the most informed decision. So I'm just going to leave this presentation, the presentation portion of this open house with these parting thoughts. And mainly to say again, that the endless and divisive debates resulting in no tangible action for over more than 20 years should no longer be an option. As Celine has outlined in her presentation, we have serious challenges in the current location, and it is impacting our ability to provide the service that this community needs. Give us a chance to prove to you that relocation to the complex can work and can make the library thrive. The dream of a downtown library does not have to end. But do not hold us back while the debate continues when we have the opportunity here at the complex to address our long-standing space needs now. I've always said the Aylmer Library is a success story. And the fact that its future accommodation emotes so much passion is a good thing. We continue to talk about better ways to expand the library, and that is because it is a well-used community resource. And our statistics back that up. Our staff are committed to this community and to providing the best service possible regardless of the location. And that will never change. So with that, we're now going to open up to any questions. Before I do that, I'd also like to thank Peter Blaine for setting up the sound system for us tonight. Because a room like this, and obviously with the HVAC system, I know I heard, we heard it going off, but the ability to be able to ramp up the sound up and down in this space is really has been a great benefit. And of course, Peter's volunteered so many hours in this community for cultural events. So thank you again, Peter, for assisting us tonight. Thank you.